Hey everybody, welcome to another model building workshop. I'm Mr. Allen from the Smith Hill Library, part of the Providence Community Library, and we're looking at this oddball kit, the Polikarpov I-185. This is from a company, I guess it's called Model Russia. I've never heard of this company, and this came like so in a bag for a whopping price of $1. I picked this up at a model show back in the day, when we were still having model shows. So the I-185, let's see, is an evolution of the I-16 and I-181 types of fighters. I'm just reading here. And it had a 1,700 horsepower M82A air-cooled radial engine. All right. So the I-185 was built in small numbers and served in two forms during World War II. One was powered by the M82A engine, and one was powered by a 2,000 horsepower M71 radial engine. So the I-185 was a heavily armed aircraft with three 20-millimeter cannon, and capable of carrying 8 RS-82 rockets or bombs. The aircraft saw combat with the 728th IAP, I guess Russian fighter group, and although veteran pilots praised its hot performance, at 381 miles per hour, pilots less skilled found it to be a very demanding plane to fly. So I did a little bit more poking around the internet on this. So the 728th Squadron fighter group, they had a handful of these aircraft, and they were pretty much still considered experimental at the time, and they were kind of testing them out in combat. But one of the things they did is they tended to use these planes in a defensive role, so they were flying over Russian-held territory only, maybe interdicting incoming German aircraft. So they weren't flying these planes into enemy territory for fear if they were shot down and crashed, they didn't want these falling into German hands. They didn't want the technology being discovered by the Germans, so they tended to keep them over their own territory. But I gathered there was very few of these planes that are actually in use. So it is definitely an oddball plane, which makes it kind of a fun one to build. And I believe, in more recent days, looking at the internet, that there are, different shops, different model manufacturers have come up with versions of this model kit as well. So anyway, let's have a look. So started working on it, painting it like that interior Russian gray from the time period. And well, let's see how this goes together. The pieces are, well, they're not too bad. I mean, it's a little crude, but I've seen worse coming out of the old communist countries. This looks like it's got some potential. I mean, I guess it is still kind of on the crude side. So we'll see how this works. Reminiscence of Airfix as they, excuse me, I think I got the hiccups. That could make this interesting episode. Uh, so we'll take a look and see how this goes. It's a very basic blow-up diagram. I was saying kind of Airfix-like. Though, yeah, it's going to take a little bit of figuring out how this is going to go. So let's just try to put some of this together to get an idea what this kit would be like to build. Okay, so as the fuselage halves, what there is of a cockpit floor, basically a chair and a floor, and that's it. Instrument panel, which is kind of crude with some raised surface detail at best. And might be good to get this propeller and all of its pieces figured out. All right, let me see. I'm gonna work on that. Start there, I guess. And I've done some cleanup on some of these parts beforehand. Even on the trees, I tried to clean up a little bit. Not sure what the year on this kit is. I don't know much about it. I guess it warrants more of an internet search to see if I can find some more data on this model kit. Got this curved sanding tool here, which is kind of good with some of these small, awkward spots that get the sand. All right, let's see. There's like a number of different rings. There's one that I guess that glues into the front of the fuselage, and then the pin has a retaining ring on the back. It's not my favorite design. One thing I'm curious about this aircraft is like there's no actual radial engine to this kit. And it just shows that the propeller hub fitting really cleanly over the engine, so you don't even see the engine. I'm not sure how realistic that is. I'm thinking of the FW-190 series that had the BMW radial engine, and the cowl was such that you could barely see the engine because it was shrouded in the propeller hub, covered most of it. I'm thinking it's on that concept, but you should still have some engine detail, I would think. There's none here. Odd, but who knows? Maybe that's what the real plane looked like. Like I said, know very little, if anything, about this plane. You know, for me, it was just I was just curious, like, okay, $1, why not? Even if it's awful for $1, it might be worth the laugh. Okay, so the attachment point's a little bit thick here. That's going to take a little bit of work getting these. That's a new blade, too. I think we do the chisel point and really get at this thing. So be careful, I don't want to send this piece to Japan. Good grief. They just got this round piece of plastic. Pretty big considering. Kind of making it impossible to get that off. The tree. Okay, I gotta get with it here. Maybe I should have more coffee. So, yeah, you're really stuck with this diagram. But I think it should suffice. We'll see. Like I said, there's not a lot of complexity to this kit. So you have this, if you can see that, and that is going to sit right. One of those days when I think I'm going to need extra hands. So that's supposed to sit in there somehow. Yeah, I'm not too optimistic about that. Let's see, I think I might have to open this up a little bit more to get that in there. Let's see how it fits on this side. Yeah. May need to open this hole in the front a little bit more to get that to sit right. Yeah. Well, that's kind of suspect, isn't it? If you're starting out like that. Makes you wonder how the rest of the build's going to go. I don't want to go too far because then it's going to float around. Yeah, I guess that's how it's supposed to go. That's a strange design. Looks like you glue that in and then oh, come on. Yeah, this okay. It's making me nervous. Well, that's not that bad actually. Just got to loosen this up a little bit more. But yeah, you do have to open this hole up a bit so that will fit in without fighting too much. So if you notice, I've been building a lot of really simpler models because I've been looking for things that are more child friendly, and sometimes I'm successful in finding kits that are, and sometimes I'm finding some that are not so. But that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to locate kid-friendly models because we're doing in-person model building classes at the library. So I'm trying to find things I can use with youth. I think like the average age right now for the kids I'm working with might be like 10 or 11. So that's what I'm looking at, and so that's been bringing me back onto this nostalgia ride of some of the best kits for kids that age. I tended to find were old vintage kits that I built when I was that age. So I've been deliberately looking for things like that for the last few years as we've been doing this program. I mean, I had a bit of a break during the pandemic because we really couldn't do the live in-person programs, and that's why I've been doing a lot of this type of stuff with you guys here online, since we had to experiment with a whole different way of providing some content and some kind of entertainment, some kind of programming, right? All right, so this propeller is supposed to go. Yeah, I should have thought about that. That it's not going to want to work. All right.
Oh, note to self, you should probably test the propeller shaft into the hole before gluing anything. Oops.
So, luckily the glue hadn't set yet. Okay. I'm going to pause this because I think I'm going to bore you people to death watching me try to drill that out. So hang on. So suffice it to say, I'm not the biggest fan of how that went in there. I'm not a big fan of that. But hey, that's what we got. That's what they gave us. So at the moment it spins, sort of. I am curious if that's really going to survive. All right, that. That's going to drop on top. Yeah. Okay, we'll try that. A lot of this looks like a lesson in wishful thinking, but we'll see. I'm not sure about the instrument panel. Scrape a little paint to get an instrument panel in there, which I'm not sure how that's going to go. think it's going to be tricky sandwiching all of this stuff together at once. I mean, it usually is in a kit like this, but oh, there it is. That's my panel. We will see. Oh, the other thing is that we have to put the floor. Doesn't really say that, but you can kind of look at this and you know you got to sandwich the halves of the fuselage over the section of wing. So yeah, there's a lot that's going to have to happen all at once here, which is a tad nerve-wracking. That's, oh no, actually this drops in. I'm sorry, this doesn't have the hole like the Bearcat did. This drops in afterwards, but okay. Gives me a little bit of time here to finagle everything. All right, let's see if we can get this in. I think a lot of things are going to have to happen all at once here. Oops. Work this out a little better. Yeah, definitely should have more coffee today. Doing a number of things sloppy. All right. Okay. Oh, I gotta get the dashboard in pretty much now because we're not gonna be able to. I was hoping I put that in differently, but okay, that's not gonna work out. It was my hope to be able to slide the instrument panel in from underneath, but the cockpit floor is so large that you're not going to be able to get in there afterwards. Ish. Not a big fan of that. Oh, I did something else stupid, didn't I? Yes, I did. All right, so I'm kind of giving you a good idea of how not to do these things because I'm a little sloppy today, and I do apologize, folks. There's an edge here that should have been sanded prior to putting that in. Oops. All right, that will go there. This goes there. More to get that skidding properly. All right. Oh. No, come on. You want to do this? I can see that you do. What's fighting me here? And everything. Oof. Yeah, seems right. Okay. It's just a matter of keeping it together, which it doesn't want to do. All right, it's going to require a lot of rubber band and tape and stuff to hold that. I'll do a quick pause. Okay. One issue I ran into is that the seat is actually a little too high up, and I needed to file that down to make it the canopy of the glass to fit on it. Maybe an option could be that it shows the floor dropping in on top of this raised detail in the fuselage. Maybe if it goes under it, you might have more clearance for the seat. I'm not sure. At the point that I noticed that, I figured I better check that pretty quickly, but at the point I decided to sit this, it's a rather crude piece of glass. When I tried to sit that on there and found that out, it was at a point where the fuselage had pretty much fused together already, so it wasn't like the option to sit that floor down. That option kind of vanished. So there is a bit of a, bit of filing that I need to do here. There's probably going to need to be some putty here and there. So be ready for filing and sanding and that stuff if you find one of these kits and try it. So getting this in, this took a little bit of sanding and whatnot, but it's going to leave, I can see it's already going to leave a nasty gap, which I'll show you. So again, putty is going to need to be required in this area here, since this is not a flat piece. Yeah, and some sanding, because this is going to give you an odd fit. So yeah, putty and sanding is going to have to be required there. Yeah, I'm still trying to squeeze this fuselage halves together there. It's a little challenging, but I think putty will fix that. So I'm going to end this program pretty soon. I just want to see how the tops of the wings fit in. And we'll try that. So you have some tools already when you work on this, because it's going to require quite a bit here. I think I can put the ailerons is separate, so you could pose them differently if you wanted to, although it does give you that option on the rear fins, the stabilizers. So but there's some things you could do. The rudder is also a separate piece in the back, so you could play with some options there as well. So let's get this. Tell you what, I'll pause for a minute so you don't have to watch me sand all that stuff, and we'll just see how the fit is. All right, give me a second. Okay. The wings have some issues here. Hold on a second. Okay, the wings have some issues, as I just said. This one's not too bad here, but if I can show you, the wing tip here, there's a bump there, I'm not sure what that's for, probably for the pitot tube, I guess. But when you sit this piece onto the bottom part of the wing, this tab here, the tip, is on the bottom part, so you have to try to lock this top piece into here to connect with this tab, or tip I should say. And it's not too bad on this wing, but the other wing, I clamped it, but it's a little awkward. I think some putty's going to be needed on that gap there. I'll show you. The way this sat on here is not the best. So I tried cleaning that up. And that's how that came out. Anyhow, let's see what I can do about seeing what these wings look like. It's definitely a weird design. Okay. I didn't glue this in yet, so. Yeah, that's pretty awkward. That's a rather awkward fit. So I think that's going to take some playing around with to get that just right. Because that needs to work. It needs to be worked over a bit to get that. As you can probably see. So, alright, I'm going to have to tackle that and see if I can clean that and try to get this thing to sit right. A little awkward. I'm just noticing the propeller is also a little bit off. Alright, I think I just fixed that. So I'll put the hub on pretty soon and make sure that lines up right. Anyway, it's interesting, but there's definitely some issues with this kit, which I kind of expected. But I still think it can be built into something that'll look okay once you put some paint on it. Okay, so that's our model building workshop for this episode. As we're doing the I-185. All right, thanks for watching.